21 to order. We don't need a roll call, but we do have all, and I'm sure the mayor is on his way. So the first item on the agenda today is the council meeting for November 18th, Thursday night. We start with call to order, roll call, invocation, pledge of allegiance led by Councilmember Benning, and then acceptance of the agenda. Any questions or comments on that item? Okay. And then we'll go to the city manager's report, which he'll have ready Thursday night, right? And then we go to item 2, which is the consent agenda. It looks like some meeting minutes, some sewer easements for Veritas Christian School, dedicating a public right-of-way. Are any of those things that need to be briefed, Matt or Jill?
Only if council would like a briefing.
Okay. Does anyone have questions on that one?
I forgot to email Maria. I did find a couple things in the minutes. Just the date on page 1 when we were called to order. It still says the 14th. And then there might need some clarification on page 2 when Chuck was talking about the increase in revenue. It says, not might, we need to clean it up. It says 1,011% over the previous year. And I know he was saying like 10 and 11.
Yes.
So we just
I
have
saw
to.
that. I was wondering about that. Thank you.
That's it.
Okay. Any questions on the sewer easement or the right-of-way on 7th and Buffalo?
So 2.2, that's the one that's the Verita School. It's back on again.
Yeah.
Right?
Veritas?
It came off, now it's back off. So is there still going to be time to ask people again if they want to connect to the sewer, or is that a one and done? Have they already asked them before? Or is it, okay, it's happening for real now. Do you really want to do it?
Jeff, it looks like you're ready to answer that question.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor Pro Tem Gray and Councilmember Rodriguez. The city has received all the sewer easements from the adjacent property owners. So it runs over 3 separate properties. All 3 have signed off on the sewer easement.
Okay.
So the city will be able to go in and maintain those lines in the future.
Okay. And Circle K still says no.
Well, so because that's a separate issue.
Okay.
Yeah, that's more of an annexation situation rather than
Right.
connecting to the sewer.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. And then any questions about the public right-of-way on 7th and Buffalo? Ledger Trail? None? Okay. All right. Then item 3 is we moved to public hearing items, and that looks like a couple of liquor license. Ms. Adams?
Mayor Pro Tem Gray, the first item, item 3, is for a restaurant liquor license at, I'm looking at the wrong item, item in order, for Young G. Kim on behalf of Pinnacle Enterprises for the Beverage House. I'm sorry, this is a Series 9 liquor store, liquor license. My apologies. The notice of the public hearing was posted on the premise. The required will have been posted the required 20 days, and we have received no comment from the public, pro or con. And the police department has done a background of the applicant and has no objection to this license moving forward. And if approved Thursday night, it will be forwarded to the liquor board for final action.
Okay. Any questions for Ms. Adams on this one? Okay. And then item 4 is also a public hearing item for a liquor license.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Gray, members of council. This is an application for a restaurant license for Hannah Tokyo. Christopher Lee is the applicant on behalf of KYJ Brothers LLC. The notice of the public hearing was posted on the premise, and we have received no comments from the public whatsoever. A background check was performed by the police department, and they have no objection to this license moving forward. And if approved Thursday night, it will be sent back to the state on Friday for final action.
Okay, thank you. Any questions on that item? Okay. Now we move on to item number 5, which is also Ms. Adams, and this is amending our city code and declaring a 30-day public record.
Mayor Pro Tem Gray, members of council. As you recall, at your work session in September, early September, we discussed some basically updating of this section of the city code as it relates to the city council. I took the input and consensus that council had. For the most part, most of the changes that were written in during the first discussion were left the same. The change that seemed to be the consensus of council on the appointment of the mayor pro tem was clarified that rather than four dissenting council members, we clarified that the appointment is approved by resolution. So that change was made, and for the most part, everything else was discussed in September and was not changed.
Any questions on this item?
If approved on Thursday, we'll have it open for the 30-day public record. We won't make the December council meeting, so it will come back to council in January as an ordinance for final adoption.
And then we'll go into effect 30 days after
Yes,
that?
ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Okay, item number 6 is Mr. Fisher. There he is. He was hiding behind the screen. And this is an item on a general plan amendment for a land use designation on some public parcels.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, members of council. Today we have a staff-initiated minor general plan amendment proposal to change the land use designation of Sear Center Park from its current industrial designation to public. For background as to why this is being proposed, the city is applying for the use of federal community development block grant funds to carry out planned parking and access improvements to serve the growing needs of Sear Center Park. During the application process, staff determined that the 5 subject properties that made up Sear Center Park had industrial land use and zoning designations, which is inconsistent with its current use and master planned layout by the city as a park. In order to eliminate the inconsistency and demonstrate conforming land use through the grant application process, staff is proposing an edit of map 1 of the land use section of the general plan on page 20. We'll flip to that now. And this is how it appears now. As you can see, currently has an industrial designation. It's a bit blurry, but this pink represents industrial, even though we know that that is Sear Center Park. This edit is required before any rezonings can be done on the property as well, as they are also inconsistently zoned for industrial use, and parks are not permitted in industrial zoned districts. During the public outreach for this, staff received no comments regarding the proposed general plan amendment or the rezonings proposed, and P&Z offered recommendations to both. That is all. Thank you.
Okay, and PNC unanimously approved the recommendation to come before council last night. Any questions on this item? Pretty clear.
Well, why is this not designated as open space rather than what you're proposing?
Different things.
Councilmember Johnson, the corresponding designation and the land use designation for parks is public. As we can see, Veterans Memorial is also that same shade of gray.
Okay.
This is the proposal. But when talking about rezoning the properties, we'll be changing them from industrial uses, the industrial park, the heavy industrial, and the light industrial, to open space, which is the corresponding zoning designation. So
Okay.
it can be a bit confusing, but that they're
Okay.
differentially defined.
All right. Thank you for clarifying that.
No problem.
Okay, anything else? Okay. And now we move on to item number 7. And that's also Mr. Fisher, and it's related to the last topic.
This is just a follow-up to the previous, that the rezoning is, the general plan amendment is required before the rezoning can proceed. And this would basically entail rezoning the subject properties of Sear Center Park as it's master planned from their corresponding industrial designations to open space. And these are the 5 properties. The Sear Center Park has been master planned to expand out with additional parking down here as well, and some additional amenities over here.
Okay. Any questions on that one? Okay, so now we're on item 8, right? Under new business. And so, Mr. McLaughlin, this is to talk about the proposed expansion to the West Sierra Vista redevelopment area.
Good afternoon, Mayor Pro Tem, members of council. I'll just start by saying that I think there's a broad consensus for continuing our revitalization efforts on the West End, and this proposal is a step in that direction. This represents the second amendment to the redevelopment area. In 2017, you may recall the council designated a 23-acre section along West Fry Boulevard, and then added an additional 29 acres the following year to more than double the size. This resolution you'll be considering for approval on Thursday covers 162 parcels comprising 111 acres of property west of North Fifth Street. The incremental approach that we've taken, starting with the oldest blocks on the west end, has been prudent course to help build support for the program. Concentrating focus and investment maximizes impact, and while we still have a ways to go, we're making progress. With respect to the redevelopment area, this is a two-step process. First is the designation of the district, and then second is amending the redevelopment plan to cover the expansion area. The designation step requires council to make a finding of necessity by a 2/3 vote. The study documenting conditions of the proposed expansion area was carried out by Stantec, the county's EPA brownfields consultant. The report provides an objective analysis following statutory criteria used to that's based on the definition of what constitutes a blighted area. The data was collected using secondary sources that was filtered and sorted using GIS to create the composite picture. Factors that were evaluated include building age, condition, parcel size and shape, pedestrian and vehicular access, sewer availability, floodplain, and vacancy status. The conclusions of the study are provided on page 34, which find that one or more of the pertinent factors are present on more than 90% of the expansion area parcels. The study further finds that a significant number of the properties are vacant or underutilized and have the potential to support new community-serving uses such as housing, employment, and retail and entertainment spaces. There are also some gaps in infrastructure that should be considered during the redevelopment area planning process. We presented the findings at a public meeting on October 27th. A mail notice was sent to all property owners within the expansion area 3 weeks prior to the meeting. According to the sign-in sheet, 16 property owners attended, but we think there were more in attendance that didn't sign in. We went over the elements of the partnership program and how it's administered and answered questions. There was a general acknowledgement regarding the need for further city involvement on revitalization initiatives and capital projects. There was also an acknowledgement on the need for property owners to step up and maintain their properties better and band together to make the West End a more vibrant part of the community. The owner of 143 Street Tacos also provided powerful testimony on how beneficial the grant was to moving his business to South Carmichael to address a long-standing vacancy there. We also spoke with multiple property owners ahead of the meeting who provided letters of support, which are included in your packet. Approval of this resolution fulfills a council objective to expand the redevelopment area in the West End Partnership Program as appropriate. If approved on Thursday, we'll move immediately to begin the update to the redevelopment plan. And with that, I'll answer any questions.
Questions for Mr. McLaughlin?
I have a comment. I loved this study. It was so neat to kind of see the breakdown and the different factors that they looked out and have all that stuff laid out. That was really, really neat. And to also see the positive feedback from those out there looking to be a part of that. So that was really neat.
Pass that around.
Anybody else?
No, it was a great meeting you guys put on, and like I mentioned before, I just hopefully all the property owners are getting notified somehow. It seemed like there was a lot more that here for that meeting than signed in on the sign-in sheet.
Yeah, definitely.
One of the things I asked Mr. McLaughlin to do this week was come up with kind of a chart that said, here are all the bennies or the benefits we can provide you if you're part of this program, so that the business owners or the people that are looking at buying property, developing property, will understand what that is in a one kind of shot paper. And he's already developed that, and he plans to put it on the city website. So whether you're the realtor or whether you're the investor or whether you're somebody, general public, you can go in there and actually see what the potential benefits are, what the dollar amounts are for each one of the programs. So that should be help facilitate getting people involved in investing in the community.
And something I guess we should definitely make sure the public knows, it doesn't equal construction. It doesn't equal more construction.
That's right.
That's the, some people have that thought too, that since we're expanding the area, we're gonna expand more construction and more tearing up more roads, things like that, but that's not necessarily the case. there's more to it. It's about growth, period, not necessarily building roads.
And that's a great point, because while we are still responsible for upgrading the roads and the surface transportation, this is focused on the businesses themselves and the availability to conduct business in a empty building or an older building, et cetera, so we can bring that up to code and safety standards, ADA standards, et cetera, et cetera.
Right. And I also applaud some of the local business owners. One of them made a comment that there was two trains of thought there. Turn the lights off when they leave their building. The other one said, no, leave them on. It doesn't cost us very much at all to leave our lights on at night, to say, hey, we are open. This is still a business. It's, so, and then they kind of agreed, like, all right, well, we know what, we're going to give that a shot. We normally turn the lights off at night, but I guess some of them agreed that they would do what the other ones are doing. Leaving the lights on, somewhat not within the whole building, at least their sign.
Yeah, the
right?
signage needs to be
The
left on.
signage, yeah.
Yeah, it's absolutely right. That's a great thought.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions or discussion on this item? All right, before we go on to item number 9, I want to apologize for my tardiness. And I did something I don't normally do, is I answered the phone as I was leaving the house, and then I couldn't get off the line. So that should be a lesson for all of us.
So what happens when you have a house phone still, Mayor?
Well, I know I'm old fashioned. I actually got a landline.
The lesson, don't call the
But
mayor
it's
before
a
a
punch-
meeting.
It's a punch button, not a dial. So, although I do still have a dial phone in the office. So, okay. I guess we're now ready to go on to item number 9, and that is item number 9 is policy procedure manual. Ms. Adams.
Mayor Mueller, members of council. Also, following your September 9th work session, I took the comments and consensus of council on the proposed changes in these guidelines and made those and presented you with a new draft. The primary changes that were made in this draft, the first one is on page 10 and relates to electronic participation in meetings. At your request, I did reach out to some of my fellow clerks around the state and talk to them about how, if they were doing this, how they were handling it. Most of the data primarily related when the buildings were closed. So they had no other choice. They had to allow the public to participate electronically. There are a few cities that are kind of dipping their toe into maintaining that option as they have reopened, but most cities are not encouraging, if you will. It's out there, but it's not something that's widely known to the community or widely used, I guess, maybe the better way to say it. I left the language in there that perhaps with 48 hours notice we could allow either telephone or through WebEx. We have both options because we did do that with the WebEx and we're doing it again today with the telephone, and we've had some success with presentations that perhaps if a citizen is unable to come to a meeting, and I don't know how you would necessarily prove or judge that, but if they are unable to, whether it's a disability or an illness or whatever, and they ask that early on, then that eliminates a lot of the last minute stuff racing around, because you can't do it on the spur of the moment. It just can't be done. But if we arrange for them in advance, we know what they're going to talk about, we get them basically on the agenda, then it's entirely up to you whether you want me to make that option available to the public or not at this time. We can change it any time, and it doesn't actually have to be in these guidelines for that to be available, because that's just kind of a policy, a city policy, allowing people to participate. But because it's a council meeting, that's why it's included in your booklet now. So I threw that in there as to a potential means to do it, and whether you all want to leave it in or see if it goes or how it goes, I leave it up to you. That's my first question.
Well, I don't personally have a problem as long as we have long enough lead time to set up and we have the capability to do the phone or the Zoom. I don't have a problem if they say, hey, I want to address the council on subject X, and, I'm in Montana or et cetera, whatever the issue is, if it's a legitimate reason for them not being able to be here, I don't have a problem doing that. But
And
it should not be, that should be the exception,
Correct.
not the rule. If somebody can physically make it here on time for the meeting, then they need to follow the regular procedures. But how do you frame that exemption though?
Yeah.
And once we set an exception, it's gotta be consistent. See, that's the other challenge.
And I agree, and.
One that's good
and-
for all.
And, I suggest perhaps we leave it in for now and give it a try. And if it becomes problematic, then next time we amend this, we can take it out and discontinue that. Because for the most part, people who want to come are able to come. I also threw in the language that said they could submit their comments in writing if they choose
And
to
they
do
can always
that as
do
well.
that.
Yes, and that we could read them. So leave it in then for now?
With the 48-hour caveat, right? So what you're
Okay.
saying, yes.
Okay.
I agree with that.
All right,
Betty, you're
excellent.
looking kinda quizzical.
No, I agree with it. I just worry about the can of worms we may or may not open going forward. But no, anytime we get to listen to it, hear from the public, it's good. So let's see how it goes.
Okay, I will leave that in. The next change based on the work session was open meeting law training. And my question is whether the word required is a little strong, requiring new council members to attend open meeting law training like the one that's coming up next month that the league puts on every year after the election. I did remove any reference to follow-up other than we have posted and we will continue to post information and any updates and videos and all that on the website. So if a council member doesn't say want to come and talk to myself or Nathan, there are videos and there are sources for information if they have questions about open meeting law as well.
I think, I just say my opinion, with exception maybe our lawyer here who probably understands more about open meeting law than the rest of us. If there's a new council member, one way to get in trouble quickly as a new council member is not to be able to understand or follow the open meeting laws. And we place that as a requirement as council on the new council member, and that's one of the few things that we really request or require for them to do, especially if we're not doing a every 4 years you got to go through it again or whatever, because it changes often enough to cause questions. So I'm in favor of keeping it. You had your
Okay.
hand up.
I don't think the word required is too harsh. I think it's absolutely
Yeah.
necessary because, this is a very complex law. There's a lot of intertwining with respect to social media and emails and websites. So I think you nailed it here. I think it's fine.
Okay, very good.
Yeah, I did too.
All right. The next section, which was not in the document that we went over on the 9th, relates to the use of personal electronic equipment. Mr. Rubio, our chief IT guy, is here if there are any questions or to explain this section because he wrote it, not me. And so these are things that basically, while unfortunately there are some things that that council can do that city employees can't do, IT and cybersecurity is not one of those things, and there is a certain amount of guidance that has to be followed in order to do this because you're connecting directly to the city network, and that's mostly what this is installing the proper software, using the proper hardware with the guidance of IT. They're there to help you all the way. They'll make it work, but there has to be some rules because with the environment that we live in today, cybersecurity is incredibly important. And you get home and you're doing something at home and it's just too easy to hit, oh, isn't that a cute video? Oops. But if you have any questions, Abe is here. I know there was some specific jargon and references to certain applications that he may be able to clear up or not. We can let him off easy.
Any questions or discussion on this part of it?
It's pretty explanatory.
The real question for us, is it workable? Because everybody works their own, has their own private systems that they work on and public media, et cetera.
Well, I mean, based on the explanation, I'll just make the choice to keep using city equipment.
Yeah,
So
that's
that
what
I
I've
don't
done
have the
too.
security
Yeah, yeah.
options on my personal stuff.
It'd be nice getting some emails on the phone.
The option is there.
It's good to me. I think it's a good setup for me.
Okay.
Other than all the fake Rick Mueller emails I get from some person.
That man always sends me stuff.
I almost bought you 4 Amazon gift cards the other day.
Because he was in a meeting that was very important.
He
He
was in a
couldn't get
meeting.
away.
He couldn't get to me. He said, "Can you just go to buy them and then bring them to work?"
You know, he has 5 other people you
Hey,
get
that's
to,
dirty-
but hey,
that's
come
dirty
to
pool.
me.
That's really dirty pool.
What did you from?
Just because your name's in the public, they start using that kind of crap.
They're getting good when they're like, I need to get Chuck a gift.
Yeah.
Who is the mayor?
So, anything on that point?
No?
Jill?
All right. No. Other than that, the only other major insertion, which was in on the 9th, was the social media policy, and that's been just tightened up and cleaned up a little bit, but other than that, no other changes from the last time we discussed this, and she's
sorry,
calling
I'm
for the
supposed to
next
call
item.
Calling.
Series to dial 1 when calling this number.
Any,
Please
any
redial
further
using the
discussion on this
correct area
item?
code.
Okay,
That's good.
thank you very much.
Thank you, Joe. Appreciate all the hard work.
Typo, but I'll tell you about it.
And then,
I will be going through this with a fine tooth
Okay.
comb, making sure there's no typos, all the pagination, everything is capitalized versus everything, so it'll be all pretty once it's all passed.
okay, now we're ready for item number 10.
Let me
And and we're waiting to get Mr.
Ania.
Selenia on the phone.
Please now dial 1.
I didn't like it last time.
Long distance, it's a 520.
Request digits.
Okay, Jill, is this the right number?
Yeah? Why does it keep hanging up?
That's loud, too.
Yeah. Won't let me do it. It's wanting to dial an extension. Mm-hmm. Try it without the 9, let's see.
You must now dial 1 plus.
See, and then it's not long. So,
So a bunch of lawyer talks. I like how.
that's better than what you done before.
Because the IT guy walked up, started working.
I can just call.
Always
Every time
happens.
we do
Always
Right on the
happens.
Good afternoon, Flamey Law. This is Ursula. How may I help you?
Good afternoon, Ursula. This is Jill with the City of Sierra Vista again, calling for Mr. Slania.
Okay, hold on.
Thank you.
Welcome.
I thought it was Pink Panther at first. This one went trouble. He was saying, you don't want to.
Hello, Michael Slania.
Mr. Selenia, this is Mayor Mueller. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can. Thank you for joining us today. We're down to item number 10 on our agenda, and it just happens to be discussing a possible resolution for the Industrial Development Authority of Sierra Vista regarding issuance of charter school refunding and revenue bonds. And we're eager to hear your report.
All right, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, happy to be here telephonically with you. This is an issue of charter school bonds that is a direct bank placement for Harvest Preparatory Academy in Yuma, Arizona. This is a transaction that is seeking to close again before the end of the month, so they have a desire to move rather rapidly. They have already got one bond issue outstanding that will be refunded by this transaction, but they are looking for additional new money. So they have a charter school right now that they are operating, and they are currently leasing an administrative building that they seek to buy. So the bank, First Fidelity Bank, will be buying this. There will not be an offering document. In other words, there's no securities law that it would be sold to a variety of purchasers. They approached me to get this done, and so the Sierra Vista IDA was able to meet the timetable, assuming that you find favor with it, and therefore the Sierra Vista IDA would receive an annual fee rather than an upfront fee as we had before. This is going to be an annual fee for the life of the bonds.
Okay, and just so you know, I'm pretty sure you don't have this in front of you, but on our agenda we have two items. Item 10 is the first part of this, which is refunding the charter school the money from the other bond, and the second one would be the issuance of the second bond, if that's correct.
That is correct, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. This is the second one. If I could move to that.
Sure.
It is a slightly different animal. It is also a charter school bond issue. It is, however, that one is going to be publicly offered. It is going to be sold through Robert W. Baird. And what's going to happen with that is they are looking, in that case, they are currently in 3 separate locations, one in Phoenix, one in Yuma, and one in Tucson. And they are also including a refinancing of certain other debt that they have. And so that will be a more traditional bond offering, more similar to Georgetown, which is the prior one that the IDA participated and that you previously approved. So this is the difference between the two. And just so you know, if I could, when I say charter school revenue bonds, that means that the only one who is responsible for paying on those bonds is the charter school from the payments that they receive from the state of Arizona for their enrollment. If their enrollment goes up, they will profit. If the enrollment goes down, they have to find a way to cover that enrollment, or they have to reduce expenses. The debt service on these bond issues is intended to be one of the first places that they would look to get paid, and they would then have to reduce other expenses accordingly.
Okay.
There's no cross collateralization. In other words, Harvest Prep is responsible only for its bond issue. AmeriSchools Academy is responsible only for its bond issue. In terms of AmeriSchools, if they have more students at the Phoenix campus and less at the Yuma, they have to adjust. But it's a pledge of all of that charter. And in each case, the charter school has to go through approval by the Arizona State Charter School Board. They go through review every couple of years to make sure that they're meeting all their requirements. They have annual financial audits. They have monthly reporting requirements to the Charter School Board.
Okay. Members of the council, are there any questions on the first item, number 10, the Harvest Preparatory Academy project? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And mine can...
Identify yourself so he knows.
This
who
is
you are.
Councilman William Benning, sir. And mine can actually go for both bonds. The first bond not to exceed 20 million, the second bond not to exceed 11 million. I know it's gonna be issued at $25,000 initial for 2021, plus you can go up a $5,000 increments. My question is, how much is Sierra Vista issuing, or are we wanting to issue for each of these bonds? There's no money on here, no financials.
No, and we could get the financials for the school if you wanted to see them. That is part of the application that was made to the Sierra Vista Industrial Development Authority. So those are available to you if you would like to see them. On the other hand, I will tell you that the financials themselves are reviewed on an annual basis by the charter school board, and if any charter school starts getting into financial trouble, it is their job to check in with the actual school and to bring them to the charter school board. So if I could, just to address your question, I think the Harvest Preparatory Academy, which is the charter school refunding and revenue bonds, is an amount not to exceed 20 million. So you will be issuing, the Sierra Vista IDA will be issuing an amount of bonds that will not exceed $20 million. I can't tell you right now because we're awaiting the bank underwriting for that issue, exactly how much it's going to be. What we try and do is what's called a parameters resolution. We give you the most that you're authorizing, the longest time, which would be 40 years, and then the kind of information, is it a fixed rate bond issue or a variable rate bond issue?
Okay.
So that's what's included in the resolutions that you'll be considering. For Ameris schools, the amount is not to exceed 11 million. So their sources and uses, if you will, for that bond issue is less. They have, as I said, some of those facilities under lease right now, so they are looking to acquire them. So again, I know Harvest Preparatory Academy has almost 10 million outstanding right now from the initial acquisition of their charter school facilities in Yuma. They are looking for additional new money and for that administrative building. Whereas Ameris Schools is much more an acquisition of their existing facilities.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Anybody else?
Yep.
Yes, Mr. Johnson.
Okay, thank you. I'm Councilmember Johnson. Thank you, Mr. Solania, for talking to us today about this. I have a couple questions. You said that the Harvest Preparatory Academy would be paying the Industrial Development Authority of the City of Sierra Vista over time. What is the total that you anticipate from the issuance of this bond?
Well, I can't give you an exact number. It is 7 basis points on the outstanding amount, which normally will go down. The assumption is, like a mortgage, there will be payments that are made to the principal of those bonds over the course of the years. So as the bond issue is outstanding, the Sierra Vista Industrial Development Authority will receive a check annually from the school for that amount of money. Now, I will tell you on a $20 million bond issue, let me just do that. That would be about $14,000 a year. So the Sierra Vista IDA would receive that money on an annual basis for all the years that the bonds are outstanding.
Okay. Now, with respect to the Ameris schools,
It's the same thing. It's an ongoing annual fee of 7 basis points. So the Sierra Vista IDA, and I recommended this because this has been a change within representation of industrial development authorities throughout the state, is we give the borrower who's the one ultimately paying the bill, the choice of paying an upfront fee, meaning like Georgetown, they pay one-time fee and then they don't have to pay any more into the future. That lessens their interaction with the Sierra Vista IDA, but it provides more money up front.
Got it.
Versus paying it on an annual basis, as I know Harvest Prep intends to do. And so we've set the annual fee at 7 basis points. If the school comes back to the Sierra Vista IDA and determines that they want to pay an upfront fee, then that will be a number that is negotiated with the president of the Sierra Vista Industrial Development Authority. But it would be based on that same 7 basis points per year.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, I have one more question. What is the city's liability if we have a default on either one of these bond issues?
The joy of the Industrial Development Authority for the city of Sierra Vista is there is no financial obligation. The Sierra Vista Industrial Development Authority on every one of these bond issues not only states that its general credit is not pledged, but it also states that the city's general credit is not pledged. So there is no financial obligation if the bonds are not paid for the city or the issuer.
Okay. All right, thank you very much. I have nothing further.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Anybody else? No, sir. Okay, that's item 10. Were there any other questions on 11? Because we kind of ran them together there. Okay, well, thank you very much for calling in. I'm not sure whether you'll be here on Thursday or whether you're going to call in on Thursday, but we can get that worked out.
Very good. Thank you for having me today, and I look forward to seeing you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
That's item 11. So the next items will be call the public comments, request to council in adjournment. So we go now to discussion of creation of the Economic Development Commission, and that is Mr. Boone. You have a presentation for us?
All right, Mr. Mayor and Council. So I've just got a kind of a brief comment up front. You can see the information in both the memo and the proposed resolution language. So this continues the discussion on economic development commissions. I would say this is officially the third work session that we've had this discussion. So a couple of points that I'd like to make up front concerning the draft resolution that's in front of you. First, when we went back through it, and I had a good discussion with the city clerk, there's no defined process to add additional commissions, whether regulatory or non-regulatory. So in this case, we went back and I utilized the language from within the City Administrative Directive, Boards and Commissions Practice and Procedure Guidelines as approved by Resolution 2020-035 on June 11th, 2020. And that was later published with the amendment officially on June 25th, 2020. And I took the language from the Non-Regulatory Commission and included that into the memo. Additionally, I went back and looked at the video from the previous meetings. Reviewed those as well as Councilmember Johnson's proposal. So all of that kind of went in as background into this document. The last major point, utilizing a non-regulatory commission leverages the previously approved language, the things that council has already approved, directing non-regulatory commissions as included within the memo, specifically roles, responsibilities, membership, selection, terms, meetings and agendas, public record laws, admin support, and budget are all included within the directive itself. Additionally, there are thoughts included in the memo from Councilmember Johnson's proposal, my own personal ideas and research, and also other council member comments from the previous work sessions. With that, the proposed resolution before you does two simple things. It directs the creation of the commission, and per the admin directive, it approves the mission statement, which again was derived from all of the previous information. With that, I'll be happy to take any questions.
Questions for Mr. Boone? Hang on for the discussion. questions for Mr. Ben? Okay, open it up for discussion. Mr. Johnson?
Thank you, Tony. As far as, you said this is the third time we've talked about this, and I think we're making progress. There's a few things that I have questions with respect to. Number one, meetings and agendas. I think meeting 4 times per year, based on these community leaders that we're anticipating that will be able to serve on this commission, I think that's more than sufficient, is 4 times a year. However, I'd like to see language that we could incorporate special meetings if called, if necessary, leaving that option open, that we could have additional meetings if the circumstances lent itself. So I'd like to see that in there.
Yeah, let me address that a little bit, because I read this a little differently. They would have, in my mind, they would have, the 4 is the minimum, is really the minimum. And they would have the power to say, we need a subcommittee to do this and meet so often to do this project, or et cetera. And I think the language allows that. I don't think it excludes that.
I would agree with you, Mr. Mayor, about the minimum of 4 years, but as far
4
as.
months,
Four times.
four times a year.
Yeah, what did I say?
4 years.
4 years, yeah.
I'm not sure about where it states where they can make a subcommittee and appoint other people on subcommittees, et cetera.
Well, no, I don't think we.
We have to have that in there?
I don't think we have to have that in there, and the reason I say this is I think about the Planning and Zoning Commission, and Matt, you tell me if I'm off base here. If they're by code, they meet every 2 weeks, and if they need to meet more often, they meet more often.
Mr. Mayor, we actually amended the code to schedule the meetings on a as-needed basis. It's really application-driven.
And really,
For the Planning and
so,
Zoning Commission.
In my mind, the way this really should read is minimum 4 times a year and more often as necessary. Is that what the language says for you guys right now? What is it?
It just says as needed.
As needed.
As needed. Then on the non-regulatory commissions, it's less than 4 times a year.
Non-regulatory
but-
commission
right.
should be a little looser in my mind.
That's right.
Than yours. So that's why. Go ahead.
Jill, this language that's in our memo here, this is straight out of the council-approved resolution for non-regulatory commissions, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's straight out of the city ordinance.
Yes, and by nature, they're much more adaptable to what the needs are or what the business might be, which that's kind of built into the proposal is, yeah, the goal would be to have so many meetings per year just to set a framework, but if you meet every month because there's business to be done, then absolutely, yes.
And we do. I mean, I know we have commissions that meet way more, like West End, I think, meets way more frequently than 4 times a year. And they're non-regulatory. Parks and Rec is regulatory, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think what, and Greg, please correct me, I think what Mr. Johnson is looking for, and this is under meetings and agenda on page, the 3rd page of the first, of the staff memo.
Page 3.
So it says meetings and agenda. It's the last sentence is regular absence may result in removal from the commission. We probably need to go up to the meeting. Let's see. First line, non-regulatory commissions shall meet at a minimum of 4 times a year. To me, that implies that they may be able to meet more than that. But if we need to clarify, what's the language in that, Greg, that you would clarify that?
Are you concerned about the absence part?
No,
No.
just the first line. That's what you're talking about. Non-regulatory commissions shall meet a minimum of 4 times per year. I think that's probably straight out of the manual.
That's straight out of the
Okay.
ordinance. Yeah.
But again, it's a minimum of 4 times a year.
Yeah.
The minimum to me implies that they could meet more.
Yeah.
As needed.
I think that's sufficient, Mayor.
Okay, all right.
If everyone is in agreement with that.
And then the special meetings, like all the other ones,
Yeah.
the agendas have to be published ahead of time,
That's right.
so we'll know when they are, et cetera. Is what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
No?
Not on a non-regulatory, they're not subject to that.
No, it even says in here.
All our non-regulatory, it's our intent to get the agendas and the notices
Okay.
out, published, posted, regardless of whether it's required by the open
Okay.
meeting law.
Mr. Mayor, may I?
Sure.
Okay,
Please continue.
with respect to membership, okay? I think there should be language in there that persons that are on this commission be employed within the city, or persons who have a business, occupational, or professional activities carried out as a substantial degree within the city. Once they no longer are doing business in the city, I don't think that they should be on such a commission. And they could be replaced. I don't see that happening too terribly often. I mean, I know we have a very tight-knit community here. No one wants to leave because it's a great place to live. But, you know, I think that language should be in there, that once their business activity substantially within the city limits has ended, they should drop off of the.
Now, the way it's set now, the people that are eligible for boards and commissions, with the exception of the P&Z, I think.
Any of the regulatory have to be residents,
Yeah,
yes.
the regulatory have to be residents, but the non-regulatory is open for anybody that lives in the zip codes. And that's current status. So what you're additionally suggesting, Greg, is, if I read you right, is that these people should be, I don't know how you put the word, of significant business, active significant business interests in the city of Sierra Vista. I mean, how do we say we want business professionals that are in the city? That's the language.
All right, my language, Mr. Mayor, was persons whose business, occupational, or professional activities are carried out in a substantial degree within the city. Now, if you wanted to include the zip codes, I would totally.
Well, that's what the standard is now. Is already.
Yeah,
it's
I would
already there.
I would totally agree with that. I mean, there's a lot of substantial business that's going on
Can you read-
South 92.
Yeah, can you read that? Can you read that back to me for a second?
Persons whose business, occupational, or professional activities are carried on in a substantial degree within the city.
And this is a special qualification that we don't have in the other commissions. That's why we have to be very careful.
Just a thought.
How would we define substantial, I think is also my
that's great,
question,
yeah.
is I'm trying to think through it, like how would we, because they apply and then it goes to the city manager's office, right, for appointment on these commissions? And so who would define that and who makes that
That's why.
determination?
Mayor Mueller.
Yeah, Chuck.
Mayor Mueller, Mayor Pro Tem Gray. Right now, on the non-regulatories, the policy gives me appointment authority, so there is no real firm definition of that, you know, but I would assume that I could use discretion in making that appointment. Under what you're suggesting, Mr. Johnson, it's possible somebody living in Tucson or even out of state for that matter could have a substantial business interest in Sierra Vista. Whether or not they would want to serve on a local commission, I think is doubtful, but that would open that up to people that, you know, have business interests here.
Well, you know, I think the intent is there that we have, it's got to be somebody who has I'll use the word substantial business interest in the community that can assist us. But I'll ask you the question right out, Chuck. What guidance do you need in appointing these folks to determine whether they do or do not have a substantial business interest.
Well, in my mind, the current definition.
Or expertise, I should say, too.
Well, in my mind, the current definition, using the zip codes, I think provides, good guidance in terms of, trying to stay within that policy. And I think most people that would serve would either be living in the community or adjacent to the community and probably have a business within the community. So that's what I would be looking for in terms of membership.
And
Now, these members, they would be obviously vetted by Chuck, but then we would vote on the appointment?
That's not the
No
current
provision.
That's not the process
not on a
for non-regulatory commission.
Yeah, that leaves me on that. I would go selection and terms. We have voting members of regulatory commission shall be appointed by council resolution by majority of members present. I would, for non-regulatory department, I wouldn't have that in there. I would have voting members of non-regulatory commission shall be appointed by the city manager and not even bring up regulatory commissions.
I
That
think
makes
that's just
sense.
the language.
The
that's in there.
language.
She copied and pasted it. He's on page
Three,
second paragraph.
second paragraph from the top, Mr. Mayor.
Well, here's what we got to realize is we're voting on the resolution draft. The first part of that is a staff report.
Roger, I'm on the resolution part, Mr. Mayor.
No, you're on the.
Where's the
You're on the
resolution
memo.
part?
It's
The resolution starts
Oh,
at the
I'm
top, says
sorry.
resolution 2021-XXXXX. And that's just the general resolution
Roger.
establishing it. The staff report is basically reiterating the current policies so that we're aware of them.
Roger. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Ma'am?
Councilman Johnson, I was just looking on item number 5 under the expected duties. And it says commission membership should reflect wide representation and rotation and, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
And I think that covers the types of members on the commission that we're looking for.
I do too. And it states that in the resolution there, Councilman Johnson.
What I'm not seeing structure. We've got roles and responsibilities, but there's nothing discussing a chairperson, a secretary, if minutes are gonna be taken.
Well, all that is in it is in the guidelines.
Council policy.
Public record laws.
Policy guidelines that's already been established.
Yeah.
And it's not repeated here.
It's in the council policy and
Policy.
procedures guide.
Yeah.
I've got nothing else.
Rodriguez? Good. Ma'am?
In that same policy, though, staff should be bringing back reports to us on how they're doing and
I would hope so.
what's going on with the commission.
Yeah, you get those in your executive report already, and that would be, the model we would follow here as well.
Right?
Yeah.
Anything else? Mr. Benning, anything else?
Oh, no, sir, Mr. Mayor, thank you.
Dr. Landry, anything
Thank
else?
you. Oh, he left. Thank you, Tony.
You're asking
Mayor
me?
Pro Tem?
No, I think that this is a good resolution for what Councilmember Johnson's trying to accomplish, and I think it's workable.
Okay, the next step is that this, I'm assuming I don't have any objection if we go ahead and move this into the December,
Yeah,
first
that-
meeting in December.
Yeah, based on the time frame, we would be looking at your meeting for second Thursday in December.
And obviously, we'll be discussing that at the work session ahead of time if there's other issues that come up. Once you've had a chance to review the.
Yeah, there's still a
policies and
chance
procedures.
to make changes if necessary.
All right. Let's see what else we got for today. Report on recent trip meetings and future meetings. I did attend last Wednesday, the League of Cities first in-person meeting in Phoenix. We basically reviewed what happened at the conference. We completed the evaluation for the director. There was some, we approved a letter of appreciation for a fellow of the board that was going off the board. We looked at the financial policies, et cetera, and reaffirmed those. So it was a lot of admin business. Nothing that really affected us here. There was some discussion about potentially restructuring the executive part of the board, the officers. And that didn't appear to go anywhere other than delay it for another quarter. And you know how it goes. So I don't really have anything exciting to report other than on the way up there were two semis that tried to occupy the same space at the same time, a little short of the Indian Reservation north of Casa Grande, and that slowed me down getting to the meeting. But other than that, that was the only exciting thing that was happened. Anybody else have anything to report on trips, meetings, future meetings? Yes, ma'am.
So a future meeting is happening tonight at 6 p.m., so in 2 hours. The Commission on the Cochise County Board of Supervisors Redistricting is meeting in this room at 6 p.m. to have a public hearing on whether citizens want to see a change which puts the West End and Fort Huachuca and the greater portion of Sierra Vista into one district, or no change to leave it as it is. Sierra Vista is, as a city, advocating for scenario 1, which is with the changes. And so we'd like to have as many people come out and talk about that as you can. And I know some council members have already said they would be there, and I know the mayor will be there to discuss. And then the commission will be voting on what to recommend to the Board of Supervisors, who makes the final determination on Friday morning, and then the Board of Supervisors votes the 30th of November to make their final determination on which scenario they will approve.
Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Just to report, Becky Nutt, our representative for LD 14, which encompasses Sierra Vista, up and resigned as of November 1st. I attended a precinct committeeman meeting at the Tombstone Legion. It was an awfully long day. We went over 5 hours to appoint 3 individuals to be considered by the Board of Supervisors. I think that's happening this week.
And is
Today at 1
the three names are public, I hope?
Yes, it was Lupe Diaz,
Okay.
who's already tossed his hat in the ring to replace Becky. Michael McKeon is also one of the nominees. And Robert Montgomery, who's our current CCRC chairman, tossed his hat in the ring with a whole bunch of proxies. So it was a long, drawn-out meeting. Those are the three candidates. I don't know who's going to be chosen.
Well, it'd be interesting to be a fly on the wall in the supervisors meeting.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Discussion.
And then what was
I'm sure they'll have
interesting
an
is that two
executive
of the
session and a public session.
what was interesting was 2 of the supervisors were there because they were both PCs.
Yeah,
So-
well, that's what happens.
And I just looked, and the paper hasn't published
Yeah, but I looked.
an outcome yet.
Yeah.
But they should have it any date time now.
All righty. Anything else on future meetings? Then we go to future discussion items, requests for council. Do we have anything other than completing the economic development business?
Mr. Mayor, we've got the presentation of the MPO short-range transportation plan.
Great.
By the consultant, that'll be on your December meeting, and the executive report. Otherwise, the year's winding down, and with the holidays coming.
Okay.
The transit.
Anybody? Yeah, transit plan. Anybody else? Okay, I do have one thing is, I put out, and hopefully everybody got it, I did put out a 15 November suspense to get me back the evaluations from Mr. Patuchik. I have 3 out of 7. So the other 4 folks, if you didn't get it, let me know, I'll get you a copy. And why I'm mentioning this publicly is because once I have all 7 evaluations, we normally set up a meeting to provide the evaluation as a group to the city manager. And of course, that's an executive session, so we have to plan an executive session during the holidays to make sure that everybody can be there, et cetera, et cetera. And the other topic of that is we normally discuss whether we need to change compensation. Okay? So I'm looking forward to seeing 4 more evaluations.
You will have mine to see.
Okay. Seeing nothing else before council, meeting's adjourned.